Unless you're brand new to fitness, you're probably aware of all the bullshit information being given out in the fitness industry. And the reality is that all the physiques and all the guys that people look up to in the fitness industry are products of drug abuse, not sound fitness philosophies. So in this video, we're gonna cover the biggest myths that you're gonna encounter in the fitness industry. The first and biggest myth that you'll encounter in the fitness industry is the idea of train more to gain more. So society's conditioned us to believing that the more we do, the more we get. Work longer hours, get a bigger paycheck, study more, get better grades. But due to our body's limited ability to recover as natural lifters, this is not the case, and less is more. So it's very easy for a drug-free lifter to overtrain. And when you're on drugs, you can train, 5+ days a week, you can train 6 days a week, and even historically, bodybuilders have trained twice per day. And this is training suicide for natural lifters, because the reality is, you need to train hard. This is the fundamental rule, and it's very, very simple. You need to train hard, and you need to be able to bring forth a high level of effort in every set you do, in every rep you do, in every workout you do. And if you're training too frequently, you're not going to be able to bring forth the right amount of effort to stimulate growth, because you're simply not recovered. And even if you can stimulate growth in the workouts that you do, you're not giving your body enough rest days to actually turn that stimulation into muscle growth. Ultimately, the quality of your physiques can be dictated by your strength level on just a handful of big major compound lifts. And if you are actually training hard, you simply cannot train very often. Natural lifters should train no more than 3 days per week. And honestly, this is the upper limit. So 4 or more workouts have little to no potential to stimulate any growth, and oftentimes you'd actually be better training just twice per week and keeping the workouts very short. This is going to give you incredible recovery, and it's going to increase your enthusiasm to train. And every time you step in the gym, you're going to be able to bring forth a lot of effort, and you're going to be getting really, really strong. So even though you're training very infrequently, the results are absolutely insane, because every time you step in the gym, you're going to be adding a little bit of iron to the bar. You're going to be getting stronger. The second myth is that isolation exercises are essential for muscle growth. People put way too much emphasis on isolation exercises, and the reality is it just cuts into their recovery ability and gives them a very little return on their investment. So as I said, the quality of your physique will be dictated by how strong you get on a handful of big major compound lifts. This is the fundamental rule of building a great physique as a natural lifter. And if you're just focused on isolation movements and just throwing in so many different exercises into your routine, you're diluting your effort from that which can be put into getting strong at these big major movements, which is the most important thing. The primary mass building exercises are squats, deadlifts, bench presses, overhead presses, weighted chin-ups and pull-ups, dips, and rows. And I'm not saying you're not going to include any isolation exercises in your program, and I put isolation exercises in my program, and they do have their place, but they are the passenger relative to the main driver of growth, which is the big major compound lifts. To work your entire physique from isolation exercises alone, which is what a lot of beginner trainers do, you need to pick a lot of isolation movements, which is, as I said, going to cut into your recovery ability. So you'd spend like 5 times more time in the gym for a very little return on your investment, when really you could be training pretty much your entire body with just a few big compound lifts. So in practice, you should include a mix of both big compound lifts and isolation movements, but understand that natural lifters don't have that much room. So you need to be very, very selective with the isolation exercises that you use, because as I said, they're just going to cut into your recovery ability. They're going to increase the time you're going to have to spend in the gym, because you're going to have to isolate every single muscle group, when in reality, you could just be training hard on a handful of big compound lifts that are going to cover the majority of your physique. So not only is this going to be better for gains, but you're going to save time so that you don't have to live in the gym and be a fucking gym rat, because that's just not cool, man. We need time to put into the other areas of our lives, which is the most important thing. The next myth is that high reps are for toning and low reps are for mass gains. And the truth is that both high reps and low reps can build muscle, and they both have their place in your training. So the reality is that the rep number and the best rep range is completely negligible, and it's really not that important. So, what I've noticed is that people have a way in the fitness industry of focusing on things that really don't fucking matter that much. And the truth is that both high reps and low reps have the potential to build no muscle mass if you're not focused on the primary rule of progressive overload, which is what matters. It's not the rep number that's important, it's how those reps are performed and within what overall program. No matter what rep number is performed, if insufficient effort is delivered on insufficient exercises, or even if you're delivering sufficient effort on the right exercises and you're doing too much training, too much frequency, and too much volume, then it really doesn't matter. And there's going to be no new muscle growth occurring. The next myth, and this is a big one, is that in order to get jacked as a natural lifter, it's not essential to get really strong. So put it this way, guys, I'm gonna make this very fucking simple for you. If you can bench press 150 pounds right now for 6 reps, and in a year's time, you're still benching 150 for 6 reps, your chest, shoulders, and triceps are very unlikely to have gotten any bigger. But let's say right now you're benching 150 for 6 reps, and in a year's time, you can bench 200 for 6 reps, then your chest, shoulders, and triceps will have gotten bigger. Give it another year, if you're benching 265 for fucking 6 reps, you're gonna be pretty fucking jacked. You're gonna have a pretty big upper body. So people who think strength gains don't matter and getting strong doesn't matter if you're a natural lifter are fucking out of their minds, because honestly guys, this is what is the fundamental principle of building your physique as a natural lifter. If you want to get jacked, if you want to have a great physique, expect to have to lift some fucking impressive poundages on some big major exercises. Expect to have to get your squat up fucking strong, deadlift, bench, overhead press, chin-ups, all these lifts. Expect to move impressive poundages in these lifts if you want to have an impressive physique. It's that simple. You're not going to build a big jacked Herculean physique lifting Mickey Mouse weights. You're going to have to lift big weights to get big. It's that simple. When you're a natural lifter, muscle and strength are very, very tightly correlated. If you go to a public gym and you see a natural lifter benching 315 for reps, is that person going to have a small chest, small triceps, small shoulders? You know, he might, due to leverages and whatnot, but 9 times out of 10, that person's gonna be pretty fucking jacked and thick up top. So don't get me wrong though, the get stronger to get bigger concept can be misinterpreted from some people, and what they do is that they sacrifice their form to just keep adding weight, and they're not even really taxing the appropriate muscle groups. But you have to understand that this is the primary rule that matters. So don't be that person who's just adding weight when they can't add weight and they're lifting weights that are way too heavy and they're bouncing, jerking the weight. No. If you can right now bench 150 for 6 reps, and then in a year's time you can bench 200 for 6, and you're still using the same technique, you're not lifting your ass off the bench, you're not bouncing the weight, you're not jerking it, then that is very indicative of lean muscle growth. But if you're just sacrificing your form and you're sacrificing, you know, your technique just to be able to lift some extra weight, then that's not the right way to go about doing things, and that's going to result in very little extra muscle growth. The next myth is that you can't build muscle training just 2 to 3 days per week. So if you're training properly, which means bringing a lot of effort and intensity on just a small number of the best exercises, then you're not going to be able to train much, and you honestly should not even be able to fathom seeing yourself training more than 3 days per week. If you can see yourself training more than 3 days per week, then you are absolutely completely fucking loafing, and you need to increase the effort. So as I mentioned earlier, training just twice per week is going to work best for most natural lifters, and it's honestly much more practical. So the beautiful thing about training less, training just 2 to 3 days per week, is that your recovery goes through the roof. So every time you step in the gym, you're going to be able to add a little bit of weight. Maybe it's not 5 pounds every workout, maybe that'll happen for the first few months, but maybe you're going to be able to add a rep every workout. Maybe you're going to be able to add a couple pounds, 1 to 2 pounds each workout. You're not going to be able to do that if you're training too often. So you need to prioritize your recovery, and natural lifters need a lot of recovery between workouts. And the beautiful thing about training less as well is that your enthusiasm to train just goes through the fucking roof. So every time you go in the gym, you're completely buzzing with enthusiasm, your zest for training is there, and you're gonna be really, really able to, you know, go in there and fuck shit up, make shit happen, improve the weights that you're using. So of course, if you're training half-ass, if you're half-assing your training, you're not bringing a lot of effort, you're training with mostly isolation exercises, then sure, you'll be able to train for more than 3 days per week. But the reality is that those workouts are gonna stimulate little to no growth at all. So it's very, very simple. In order to build a great natural physique, in order to pack on muscle mass, you need to train hard and string together progressive workouts. If you are training hard at each given workout and you are always focused on adding weight to the bar, increasing the poundages on your key exercises, you will not be able to train much. So this is why bodybuilders are not good role models, and why 99% of the fitness industry is full of shit, and people shouldn't be listening to just anyone in the fitness industry, because when you're on drugs, you can train with a high volume, you can train with a high frequency. I'm not taking away from the effort that's put into bodybuilding, because obviously these guys are very dedicated and they push themselves hard, and they're very, very devoted to what they do. But the training volume and frequency they can recover is just way more than that of the average drug-free lifter, and they are not good role models to look up to and to mimic. The next myth is that squats and deadlifts will make your physique look blocky and unattractive. So the reality is, guys, despite what your favorite fitness influencers are telling you, the only control you have over your physique as a natural lifter is its muscle and strength development. You can't treat your body like with individual parts. You can't try try and isolate and bring up certain muscle groups and fuck off on other muscle groups. You have to treat your body as a whole. And the only control that you really have is to maximize your muscle and strength development. So all being aesthetic comes down to. And I actually truly believe that squats and deadlifts are some of the best exercises to build an aesthetic and attractive physique. Because the truth is that there are no better muscle and strength builders. Very few exercises, if any, will put more muscle on you than squats and deadlifts, because they're undoubtedly two of the best full body exercises in fucking existence, and that's reason enough to be doing them. The truth is that they're gonna put a lot of muscle on you, and all being aesthetic comes down to is having a lot of muscle on you and getting lean. No, don't listen to people who tell you you're gonna build this kind of physique, this certain physique, because the way your physique develops is going to be dictated by your genetics. If you are short and stocky, squats and deadlifts aren't gonna make you unattractive. All they're gonna do is make you a bigger, shorter and stockier person. And if you're a lanky, tall person, they're not going to make you look blocky. They're going to make you look like a bigger, lankier, tall person. All they're going to do is put a lot of muscle and strength on you. So people have this idea that certain lifts are bad for the development of the shape of your body. Absolute garbage, guys. Each muscle has its own potential for muscle growth, and squats and deadlifts are undoubtedly the best full body exercises to put on a lot of muscle on your frame. So it's funny, usually the guys who don't want to squat and deadlift and go against the squat and deadlift, because really in the fitness industry it's become a trend to go against squat and deadlifts, which is absolutely fucking asinine and misleading, because they're the two best exercises in existence. The people who are usually the ones to go against them are the ones who want that kind of underwear model physique, that Hollywood physique. And the truth is that these guys are typically, they're dieting, they're trying to get really, really lean, stay shredded year round, and they're typically doing a lot of cardio, and they're skipping legs, or they're doing bullshit leg exercises, bullshit fluff that doesn't do anything. This combination will strip off any leg muscle that you have faster than you can fucking blink, and it's gonna leave you looking weak and pathetic. So if that sounds appealing to you, if you wanna walk around with a little bit of upper body muscle and have no legs, if that's the look that you want, then by all means go ahead and do that. But I think it's a very weak and pathetic look, and I think people who have, somewhat well-developed upper bodies but zero leg muscle look very weak and unattractive. The next myth is that you should focus on the pump to build muscle. So you could train strictly for the pump, use light weights, high reps, low intensity, little rest between sets, and you'll still be unlikely to gain any muscle. You should really just see a pump as a side effect of your training, not what you should judge your progress on. So at the end of the day, your training and your physique development needs to be judged on progress, not the pump per se. So it's very much possible to train properly and not experience a pump. So it's really not something you should worry about at all. The next myth is that protein powder and other workout supplements are essential for gains. The reality is that everyone places far too big of an exaggeration on supplements and their importance. So supplements aren't gonna do fuck all for your gains. I'm sorry to say, guys. And what I've realized is that people who use supplements and swear by supplements typically are the ones who leave their training, nutrition, and rest as an afterthought, when really those are the things that need to be dialed in on to experience results. It's not gonna be the supplements. And don't get me wrong, some supplements do have their place in your regimen. Some of them can have a benefit, like creatine, for example, one of the most research-backed supplements that will definitely help a little bit with your gains. But the truth that people don't want to accept is that if your training, nutrition, and rest is off, then supplements will do fuck all for your progress. They're really just the tip of the iceberg. They may help you with that little extra couple percent once everything else is already dialed in. And the truth about protein powder and protein supplements is that really, you're gonna get enough protein just through your diet. And most of the time, no one is ever really gonna need protein powder. If for some reason you can't get enough protein through your diet, which I call absolute bullshit on, then of course protein powder will have its place. But for most of you guys, it's gonna be really easy to get the protein that you need through your diet. And the last myth is that you need a lot of protein to build muscle, and this is absolutely false. So the bodybuilding culture, the bodybuilding industry has led you to believe, in order to sell you protein supplements, they have led you to believe that you need like 2 grams plus per pound of body weight in protein, which is absolutely asinine. The optimal protein intake is about 0.82 grams per pound of body weight. I give myself a range of 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight, and that is more than enough, and I wouldn't be surprised if you needed even less than that to maximize muscle growth. But 0.82 to 1 gram per pound of body weight is that safe spot where you know for sure you are optimizing your protein intake, you are optimizing your muscle growth. So once you get enough protein, you're much better off getting the rest of your calories through fats and carbs, as this is going to have a greater effect on your mood, your performance in the gym, and your hormonal output. So at a certain point, after eating excess protein, all the excess protein you eat gets converted into carbs anyways. So you're basically just eating really expensive carbs. So once you get that 0.82 grams per pound of body weight, or maybe you go over a little bit, you get 1 gram per pound of body weight, get the rest of your calories through good carbs and fats, and that's gonna serve you much better. So if you guys enjoyed this video, drop a like, subscribe. Make sure to pick up my free 13-point natural muscle building checklist. It has everything you need to know to build your best physique as a drug-free lifter. And if you don't have that checklist, you're missing out on a lot of key information that you're not gonna find in the fitness industry anymore, because the fitness industry is filled with all these fucking myths that we just talked about. So if you wanna find the best way to build your physique as a drug-free lifter, make sure to pick up that checklist. I'll send it to you for free, and we'll talk soon.